Hi everyone. Yes, yeah, Chief Experimenter is back. I'm now in London, 6th day into self quarantine, self isolating. Before I move back with my parents and my sister and my nephew. So today is day 6. So just gave me an idea about talk about self quarantine, right? So why the intermittent self quarantine is the new going out. Yeah. Wow. Just let that sink in for a minute, right? So because we've been now the last 5 months, we've been now inundated with this kind of a buzzwords, social distancing, and self quarantine is among us, right? And he's telling us to stay away from people, not mingle around anyone, and just avoid everyone's in gathering in groups, right? And he's also giving us a bit of a physical aspect of them as well. Certain types of contact is not allowed. We can't shake hands with anyone. We can't really hug anyone, or we can't even kiss anyone. So it's a bit of a nightmare in a sense, as like everyone is like really caught in this kind of a mayhem about how do we survive this, right? Because many of us are not used to staying on our own thoughts, on our own space, right? Because we really are social creatures. We are really, really crave for that connection and interaction, right? And this is even more harder for people who are suffering from mental health, who are suffering from social anxiety and everything else. Is really, they can't even connect to anyone, and they are now find themselves stuck indoors. It could be even elderly who can't really go out and meet their friends and families, or their grandparents can't come and see them. So it's just been a nightmare of a time, but it just gave me an idea that what is really going on, really, because this is a part of the solitude, right? The solitude is part of this kind of a social distancing and self-quarantine, right? But this got a bad rap, in my opinion, the solitude, because it's always been connected to when we were kids, when we were really asked to go to our room for not doing homework. So like disciplinarian aspects of the solitude, right? So you go to the room, you just don't come out, right? You've been grounded, and all sorts of other things going on. And also this is linked to when the prisoners were not allowed, when they were really showing bad behaviors and really being causing havoc in their own space. They've been given that then a solitude space to be on their own. So this kind of got a bad rap. But what do you do when you're really having these solitude aspects coming into us? Is because we really got confused by being alone and to loneliness, right? Because there are two different things, aren't there, right? Because so many people, especially the introverts, right? Well, let's talk about introverts. Even I used to be one. I am still one, because I think the verdict is still out there. The jury is still out there on this, and so many research has shown that you can really shift between these two characters, right? Introvert to extrovert. Because when I was growing up, I was quite an introvert kind of a character. Really love my own space, really love studying, reading, really love in my own space. I don't need to go out, right? So I was really in a different bubble. Then in my mid 20s and 30s, I really came out partying, really go out all the time, and so I kind of embrace that. But I need to learn that, right? So that's somehow I put myself outside of this certain situations and comfort zones and everything else. So I had to push myself out of it to learn and to become. So I identify there is an element of extrovert character lurking inside of me. Now I'm kind of going quite a lot of introvert introspection of a lot for the last few years when I started traveling, funnily enough. So there's a bit of a thing we need to really understand is being alone doesn't mean you're lonely, right? So there's an aspect of some of the introverts like us, what we used to enjoy and what we still lot of people enjoy is like the kind of hermit living aspect of them, right? So they really love staying in. So for them, so they don't recognize if anything is missing in their life, right? So they just really used to staying indoors, not really having a lot of social interactions. They're very happy with their own thoughts, really love reading. There is a sense of, that, satisfaction by staying indoors. There's nothing they're missing out in the outside world, right? Uh, and yeah, this is what we need to really choose is whether what are we doing, whether, what is this solitude can give us, right? I think, in my opinion, I think when we are trying to do the intermittent, right? So, like you said, intermittent fasting, why certain people are having this fasting as part of their diet and health and well being to losing weight. its main reason is to remove toxicity from their body and from everything else, or try to have a detox, right? So that's the same thing. I think intermittent solitude is really good for the benefit of so many benefits in terms of being in the calm state, right? Whether you are really engaged with others much more, like we really can deal with a lot of adverse situations, but because really calming yourself into that space, right? So you're really within your own space. It gives you a lot of creativity, right? Because gives you creativity and confidence, and also is giving us a lot more to work on our social interaction and relationships, right? Because we take it for granted, right? So this really shifts the whole focus from outside to inner world, right? To the inside of who you are, the inner self, or what you can do. It's basically to tell you to attend here and now, right? Because it's all about, all the things we avoid, right? Because we've been running around, like, that hustle on, get the hustle on. We got to be at certain place. We got to be around certain people, and we got to be really around so many things to do every day. We had to move. But it just actually stops us and appreciates the beautiful little moments in our lives every day, right? Like in the senses, when we are eating food. So it's asking us to be more mindful and more conscious about what we need to do in our lives, right? So it's just asking us to slow down a bit. Just why don't you take a bit of time out, right? So, and it also creates a different aspects of them. What I found in my time when I was in Portugal, Lisbon, 2-3 years ago, when I was supposed to go out, I did go out a lot. I really weren't kind of an extrovert in the first couple of months, but then I found myself more and more loving that indoors, right? And I really will have a lovely conversation with a young student. Then they were like really doing great work in Lisbon. So that kind of a conversation, staying indoors, really excites me. Rather than going out all the time, right? It'll really engage in real conversations, read a book or talk about and work on my passion, because it really creates a passionate interest in what you love to do, right? What do you love to do out there in the world, right? And it's also really giving you that passion. What passion is that? Do you want to take up reading? Do you want to take up craft? With using your hands. Do you want to take up carpentry? Do you want to learn cooking, which I did in my solitude, in my quarantine, back in Spain. So this kind of really lets you work on your passion, what you're really interested in something other than your busyness, right? And it's really good, because at the end of the day, what it's also allowing you to do is, by slowing down, is asking you to make sure that you don't get into the burnout, right? It doesn't get into the burnout and the stressful situations which you can't cope. And this is what I really struggle to understand, is why we wait until something happens to us and something drastic happen in our life before we take on something new, like a habit, like anything about this resolution I've talked about, like everything else, because there's something has happened, because I'm not healthy now. I got this heart condition. I got this back pain. That's happening in my life now. So I'm now burning out. Why do we need to wait until we take on this intermittent, self isolation, the solitude, right? I think that is what my realizing is. And this is like really allows you to learn a new skill, right? Take on a new challenge. What are you growing out of this world? So it's really giving you the space to say, okay, this is what I'm now going to do. Just slow down a bit. I can do this. So it's just like, rather than thinking, okay, I can't be alone, I can't really do anything about it, there is a tool, right? You can use certain tools to see, okay, how can I try this? Like, again, me exploring as an experimenter and everything else. So you can really do this, like a 5 steps incorporated into this tool. So the first one is, disconnect from the world, right? That is what I'm talking about. Just rather than waiting for anyone else, even when the lockdown ceases, just choose certain times of the day, week, just to be on your own. Right, like shut off the busyness, shut off everything else, distracts you, in terms of, there was a social media and all the media news going on and all the chatter and all the clutter noise, right? So get rid of that. That's first number one. And close your eyes when you do them, right? And second is breathe. Breathe and be there. There are so many breathing exercises you can do. Just really breathe and be present of where you are. That gives you a lot more energy into your field, because that's energy is your vibrations, right? So you got to make sure that you really are vibrating on a higher level. And 3 is like creating this personal visioning, right? Create your new future of you, right? What is the new future I'm working towards, right? So this could be all about, what do I want to show up in my life? How do I want to show up in my life? All the things I want to do, all the things I want to achieve, right? And then rehearse it. Like I said to you before, like become an experimenter, right? Try to say, okay, this is what I'm now planning to do, because I'm going to take some time out. This is great because I'm now working towards a purpose and a mission. So you don't feel like you're missing out, right? Joy of going in, joy of missing out. Like people call it a JOMO, right? Not fear of missing out, like FOMO. It's the joy of missing out because you want to miss. Because there are so many incidences in the past, the last few years. I really intentionally stay at home, work on my craft, work on my passion. The platform and the support I'm putting it together for men. It didn't come overnight, right? It just come on a series of steps and series of work on this personal missioning, which overtakes all of that thing I'm missing out in the world, right? And rehearse it like, what are the steps you need to take, right? And also change the behaviors, like what kind of when you're looking for exploring of the new you, it needs to be on a higher level of that behaviors, your thought patterns, your attitude, right? So everything needs to change, because that, in essence, your personality is changing, isn't it, right? And then the last one is a let go of all the past. Yeah, let go of all the past stories, all the backstories you're really saying about I'm not worthy, or the limited beliefs. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve this. I can't do this. It's impossible. I can't do any of this. This is all for them. Looking at comparing with other people, right? All the kind of self-destructing, behaviors, the limited beliefs and all the languages we use. That's really need to start looking at all the backstory, right? You're going to say, okay, enough is enough. I'm not that person anymore. So all I'm trying to say is your personality is all of that. What's happening is you need to create that into a daily habit, right? Into a daily habit of what are you trying to do, because that is your tool. We can do that only by staying indoors, by taking in this intermittent solitude approach of it. And then you only have to, because at the end of the day, your personality creates your personal reality, right? And the personal reality is made up of how you think, how you react, and how you feel, right? So these are the three things. So if you think about it, if you could change any one of them, how you think, how you react, and how you feel, you can literally change your different personality coming through, hence your personal reality, right? So by changing your personality, so you're really changing your personal reality by looking at how you're thinking, how you're acting, and how you're feeling, right? That is really change your life for the better, because I'm kind of morphing into so many different stages of myself, really evolving by how I think about certain situation, how I think about different perspectives, about how I rewire my brain, right? Your brain can be malleable and into different ways of connecting all the new connections when you learn something new, when you're taking on something exciting. So that's it. So they keep reflecting, and I would really recommend you keep reflecting and keep contemplating your life choices and decisions you're making. And at the end of the day, just think, but just by calming myself down, that's one thing I learned is by calming myself down and by going into this kind of a solitude aspects of them during the year, during the months, really let me find my passion, my mission, right? If you're really going into that zone, you really don't miss outside world, because right now I can quickly say, even though when they lift the lockdown in Spain, I really didn't feel any difference, right? I didn't feel that I'm missing out something amazing outside anymore, right? Because I really lived in a very, very solitude, because I didn't have anyone in my space, in my physical space, and I didn't really connect to anyone locally. I intentionally did that because I wanted to work on my book. I was writing a book. Obviously, that needs to wait. And also, I was working with an awesome coach and a mentor, and also working on my craft and the business I'm now building, right? So that really lets you into that bubble, which you really don't need to be around all the time anymore. You don't really miss. But when then that situation comes in, you love it, right? Because that becomes a treat to you. But we shouldn't look for outside to give you happiness, right? The validation, that approval from your friends and everyone. It's great to be hanging around with your friends, but then there's a time comes in, you got to be intentionally taking this inspired action, right? So that's what I'm recommending you. So if you really wanted to know how to put together these 5 steps into a tool by looking at these breathing exercises and daily habits, please let me know. I'm opening up to talk to you guys about the alignment, about whether to work with me to get your personal visioning, you becoming your story of new you. Because this is what really allows you to do. By going into that space, you really can make things happen. So if you're really interested, give me a call. I would love to talk to you. I'd love to connect with you and talk to you more about these tools and how you can really use that in your daily life, even after the lockdown ceases. So stay tuned, guys. So this is day 6 of my, quarantine in a hotel room, by the way, right? I don't really have any other space to walk around. So it's helping me because of the container I built in over the years. So I can really going into a phase and a bubble. Then I can really close everything out, right? So that really come with practice, taking inspired action. So until then, guys, speak to you soon.